Skate Talk Online, the ultimate figure skating resource. I'm here today with Doug Mattis, former U.S. Junior Men's Champion, pro competitor, influencer in skating all over social media. He's going to review Skate America with me.
Good to see Tony, and I'm glad to be here. And I just started a new job here in Texas, outside of Houston. I'm the new skating director at the Sugarland Ice Arena. It's such a great place. Kitty Carruthers is on the staff. She's like a big sister to me, former Olympic silver medalist in pairs with her brother. And we're actually looking for a few good men and women, former or recent national competitors maybe, or the like, who need to cut their teeth and get started in coaching. And this is a great place to do it. We have got a great Learn to Skate program, and I'm newly at the helm, so we definitely need the help, and we're looking for some great former skaters to come join us. But it's good to be with you, Tony, and I'm looking forward to doing this with you.
First of all, we're going to talk about the pairs competition. Very convincing winners in Evgenia Tarasova and Vladimir Morozov from Russia. They're silver medalists at the World Championships. They didn't really skate great, I would say. I think it was a good start to the season. She had a lot of problems on her jumps, which we don't typically see. But more importantly, what I want to know is, does their short program suit them, or do you think they should stick to the more traditional style that we see in their long program?
It was nice to see them going traditional in the long program. But I also, as a choreographer, want to see skaters trying new things. I think you should be ready if halfway through a season you step up to plate with something new and it's a big whiff. So always they should consider shifting and going with something different if it's not working. I'm not sure that that's the problem. I do think that they could have skated better. And although I think of them as being absolutely leading man and woman kind of champions, she's got ballet coming out of her ears. They look good. I do think that this was an initial run of this program. It looks new, and later on I want to compare it to Tim and Ashley, because I think that's a fair comparison.
And their long program is obviously more what you would expect their style to be. Do you like that program?
I do. I really do. I want to see him more engaged. I'm not sure if it's in his nature. He's somewhat of a good-looking forklift for her, and it's all about her. I'm looking at her the whole time. Not such a bad thing, considering how wonderful she is. But for her to be so expressive and for him to be so stoic, it kind of bugs me a little bit. But I think their long program is exactly as you said. It is made to order and right up their alley, right in their wheelhouse.
Behind them, there was a little bit of a competition for silver medal. It ended up going to Alisa Efimova and Alexander Korovin, their teammates, trained by Oleg Vasiliev and Tamara Moskvina. Right. Another team, really traditional, strong, powerful. They really attacked their short program. That was the first thing that I noticed. A lot of speed, a lot of intensity. She has fantastic posture. She's one of those typical star-in-the-making Russian girls I think we can agree on. But their programs, to me, seem to be a little bit more business at this point than actually engaging and getting into them. What are your thoughts on them?
I think their long program was a fascinating choice, considering all of the Greatest Showman stuff that's going out there. It was sort of like the classical, hey, there's also this as an answer to that. At times they look like a junior team to me. They really do. And once again, it did look new. So they were much more focused on the business of skating rather than what that program could be. And do you mind if I hopscotch right into Ashley and Tim? I mean, I really think that this is a breakthrough year for them. This is an opportunity. Element for element, there are many things that they do that are absolutely comparable with the top five in the world. And that program, the gray choice, they look like sort of shadows or wraiths. It's starting to explore the melodic gracefulness that absolutely Tim adds to that couple. The fact that they match so beautifully, measure for measure, it was on beat, right to the music. It looked more like sort of a ice dance on steroids. As a matter of fact, Ashley's sort of like Heidi Klum's skating disciple, and Timothy's kind of like if you cross Joe Manganiello with Guillaume Cizeron. So I think that their approach here, they're really starting to stretch their muscles as far as what they're capable of artistry-wise. And there were few breaks in the ice dance approach to laying out that program. I loved how Ashley gave the first row sort of a close shave on the exit of her twist. And the high five after the triple loops. I mean, him two-footing, not characteristic of Tim. So that was kind of weird, but the high five moment after that, I don't know if you noticed it or not. It's really just more like a touch, but it's that's a cool thing to see it. And as far as their spacing is concerned, how close are we? Can we touch hands? And I enjoyed the program from beginning to end. I can't say enough about that.
Looking at their short program, I think they had a really big chance to make a statement saying, hey, we are going to be America's #1 team. They didn't really do it. We saw him fall on the side-by-side triple loop, which we honestly never see him do. And then a few other mistakes here and there. But the one thing that was interesting to me is in the kiss and cry, and I'm not a lip reader, but I'm pretty sure that as soon as their scores came up, they looked at each other and he said, we're in front of them. And you'd have to think that is in regards to the Kinnerums. And starting their season off here, beating the national champions with only one spot at Worlds, I would have to think that that's one of their major goals from this competition. Do you think that even though they skated a very strong long program, they were only barely ahead of the Kinnerums overall, do you think that they can be considered favorites for the national title?
Favorites, I know Chris and Alexa. You can't count them out. They are fighters from way back, and they have, over the last few years, have been honing and looking at and exploring who they are as people. They cannot be discounted. I think the world of them, both as people and as skaters, they love the craft. I mean, I think we've got in these two teams, really two great teams, and either one of them could step through and have a breakthrough year. So I wouldn't discount Alexa and Chris at all. And I'm hoping that what we see at Nationals is a pairs event that everybody can get really excited about, because for the first time, I'm looking at our potential in pairs and saying, hey, wait a minute, there might be a top 5 finish here.
The Kinnerums came to this competition with no accredited coach. They were with a USFSA official. They were not speaking at first about Alyona Savchenko's absence, but Johnny Weir confirmed before the free skate that he actually texted Savchenko, and she replied that she's no longer working with the team due to differences in training habits. So what now for them? Who do you think would be a good coach for them, and what do they need to do from this point to continue their progression?
I know I'm going to take a lot of flack from my good friends who are pair coaches. As a matter of fact, at Nationals every year that I've gone, I've gotten a house Airbnb with all the pair coaches. It's me and the guys. I kind of like that. There is a brotherhood and sisterhood among the pair coaches. But so they might not like this, but I do think that largely Chris and Alexa, aside from having somebody to gravitate to, aside from somebody to introduce perhaps new innovations here and there, they know themselves. They know who they are. And so, yeah, maybe it was too radical a change, and they're looking more at lifestyle. After what they've been through in the last few years, it makes more sense for them to cut a path that's original for them. I would say if they got innovation from a choreographer, maybe that's the route to go. But I'd like to see them gravitate to somebody who is, and there's all kinds of people who should be doing more pairs and aren't. Doug LeDray, for example.
How do you think they looked in this competition? They came in with this new style. Their short program had a lot of Savchenko influence. I think even their free skate, when you look at the long lines and the long held movements, that's very Savchenko. Did you see a lot of improvement?
I see them expanding in the manner in which they're able to deliver their voice. So I call that improvement, personally. As far as the elements coming together and stuff like that, largely that's a question of comfort, time, training, being able to not have distractions and get weeks and weeks of training in. Maybe the cross-continental travel and stuff like that, being away from family, those kinds of things are life choices. And I respect their ability to create a reality in skating for them that they absolutely love.
Quickly, we should mention the German team, Minerva Hasse and Nolan Siegert. They delivered the only clean short program of the event. A lot of people really started talking about them. They skated to say something. It was a very modern feeling to a program. Not a very well-known team, but they really had the standout performance of the night, at least in the short program. What did you think about them?
I think they're great. And I was so glad to see them have a good skate. The way the scoring goes, and you and I both know that the best performance of the night, not winning is part and parcel to I say new scoring system, but IJS. IJS is about creating value on everything, some measure of value on everything. So, unless there was like some sort of 3-point best performance of the night vote, that's not going to change. So having the best performance of the night win, it's a crapshoot, or even do better. I think they're great, and I like that they had a good time. There's an old saying in skating that you can create an amazing moment in the short a whole lot easier than the long. So when I see great short program breakthrough performances, it's got to be backed up by that long. Otherwise, it sells as a one-off as opposed to this is new, this is happening.
Just as a note, all three of the teams that medaled here are competing again at Rostocom Cup in Russia, and then the Kanirams are in Japan at NHK Trophy. Moving on to the men. Nathan Chen really just dominated this competition. I think a lot of people had questions whether he would be able to keep up this level. He's going to school now on the other side of the country. He doesn't really have a coach. I mean, his coach basically is FaceTiming him for lessons. And then he comes out and delivers performances like that. Yeah. What do you think?
Once again, I'm going to harken back to what I said about Chris and Alexa. He's his own man. And actually him taking the helm and being in the driver's seat, far more completely from this point on is a good thing. I was also concerned. I thought this would be an interesting season for him because the experience of being, at the helm completely and being at school. I mean, not a hard school, right? So I was concerned about what would happen. I think this shows that he's going to be just fine. One of the things that has fascinated me about, do you mind if I jump right into Vincent?
Go for it.
Okay, so watching the two of them come up through the ranks, there was a head-to-head, through novice. Vincent spent that whole year going after Nathan's top score, record-setting score from the year before, and he was able to eclipse at that point. I think Nathan had held back. He'd won novice and held back, which has rarely ever been done. At that time, I remember likening them as being somewhat similar in a technical level expertise, but Vincent looks like he's having a good time. And it wasn't that Nathan didn't. He just was so much more inward and so much more business. And Vincent was absolutely all about the crowd. He was a little showman. Flip-flop reverse, and now here, a number of years later, they've grown up, they've matured. They're still growing up and maturing, I would say. And Nathan is a full-fledged artist. He's absolutely owning choreography. He is in it. That moment, he's very present with what's going on with the music and the choreography. And conversely, I think largely due to some unfortunate injuries and recoveries and stuff like that, Vincent is all business and all about the jumps. And I see wonderful choreography here, and I know his capability. So to see them in opposite roles from what happened when they were younger is fascinating to me. I don't think I would have bet on that. And I'm hoping that Vincent gets back into putting a performance out there that is absolutely robust and vibrant, because I know he's capable of it.
Staying with Vincent, between both programs, he received 7 under rotation calls on the quads and the triples. Do you think that the calls were all fair?
Every single one of them? I don't think so. But having said that, his take on it had grace and composure. He was saying, hopefully very soon my hard work will start to pay off. And that sort of leaves open the question of, questionable calls. Largely for the guys, I think all of us learn early, it's not up to us. So we can be friends with each other. We're all friendly with each other. And always have been. And because we leave it up to those other people. I do think that once the onus of, I might want to look at that, goes on to a skater from a technical specialist standpoint, I do think that can sort of tsunami into something that produces more statistically on the edge of being unfair moments. Having said that, I would want to say to Vincent, dude, you're going the right direction. I see it. And absolutely, your hard work will pay off. Keep going.
And you kind of alluded to this, but what do you think he needs to do to get out of the expectation of someone that will under-rotate? I mean, like you said, if you give the technical panel reason to believe that it might be close, then everything might be under the microscope. There might be these close calls. So what can he do to shift away from that? Is there anything?
I mean, honestly, if we were looking statistically at how he was doing at 5 out of 5, are they clean? Then all it is knocking on the door, and the door will open. If in practice it's only 2 or 3 out of 5, then I would want to take a look at things like toes and nose the same direction. Often, if you're turned to the left, I mean, here we're talking about technical things. If you're turned to the left and your toe pick your nose is clean while your toe is under rotated, if that makes any sense. Those kinds of things are pretty prevalent. But I think he's on the right track. I saw some jumps in practice, and I think he's right there. And I do believe that as long as he keeps working the way he has been, he'll be fine.
Going back to Nathan, his short program, I thought, this is the second year in a row where he really, this is just a marathon of a short program. The choreography is through the entire program. There's always something going on. He's really in character. The movements match the music. What did you think?
I mean, like I said, he's a full-fledged artist now. And when he's bringing, I think he knows from a strategic standpoint, intuitively, that the short program needs to be not just clean. It needs to be different and exciting. It needs to be a peek into something that is both familiar and also fascinating. And that's the way not only to light up a crowd, but to have even judges who are on the fence largely about you, be they from whatever country, that they're gonna end up being sold by that. I also know from a performance experience, I learned it in the show, where if I got into a mood, a certain presence of being, where I was maybe sort of swaggeringly wanting to entertain an audience, the jumps would be there for me. And those kinds of things he now knows. He's a consummate performer. So he's putting himself into that character, and everything else is following suit. It's a delight to see him. He's such a wonderful representative as champion for us. Great artist, great jumper. What can you say?
We didn't see the 6 quad attempts that we kind of got used to and expected last year. We did see, though, the triple axel in both programs was really solid, and that's always been his kind of nemesis jump. Regarding the quads, though, do you think as the season goes on, he's going to start to add more and more technical difficulty, and he thought maybe he didn't need it necessarily at this point?
If he's taking a look at the 30-point lead he had over second place, yes, against Shoma and a bunch of other people, the potential is there to be a whole lot closer on the scoring level. But I think his statements about taking a measured approach, I think Raphael's statements too, it makes a whole lot of sense. Yes, you open a theme park, not all the rides are operational. and season by season you add features, right? So that's kind of the way his programs are right now. The features as they come online will be added, absolutely.
Surprise second place finisher, an elder statesman, if you will. Michal Brezina from Czech Republic actually trained with Chen. He has the same coach as Nathan Chen. Someone that we probably expected was going to retire after last season, and he comes away with a pretty convincing silver medal here.
I mean, I think a lot of us had expected him to retire a number of years ago. I mean, largely this Skate America was the Hall of Fame of potential skaters. You know, you had Kevin Reynolds in there, and there was a number of people, Russian, Czech, Canadian, who have long been looked at as somebody who could do it, who could rise, who could blossom. I was delighted to see that Brezina went to Rafael. I've been, rooting. If you stay in this long, I mean, 2010. When I think it was the Singing in the Rain, Putting on the Ritz that year, I was like, this guy's going to be on the podium. This is great. And when that was not happening due to a number of events that could have happened to any of us, he stays in, keeps fighting, has a great attitude, does not have a reputation for being a jerk. Actually, quite the opposite. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, few people love skating the way this guy does. Because you know that there have been nothing but officials who have been saying you're taking up a space that goes to somebody else. And I'm not going to say he's back. I'm not going to say that this is an indication of the return of Brezina. I will say that I'm glad to see him have skates that he's proud of because he absolutely deserves it with how much he loves skating. Really, really wonderful.
And I do have to. He was fourth in the Worlds 2 years in a row, 2010 and 2011. He was looked at as, he has the look of the next big star. And then I think he got a little bit off track when he ended up moving to a different coach. His programs were really watered down. It basically was just focusing on the jumps. The jumps weren't working. He really didn't have anything to back it up. But here, he had two programs that he really believed in. His spins even looked better than they've ever looked. And that's a lot to say. He's getting older. He's not getting younger, and it's getting harder, but he's still progressing. So I have to give him credit for that.
A vitality that I had not seen in years. And I think you talk about like coaches that he'd gone to and stuff like that. I love those people. I think the world of them. But I think it was actually the retroactive. He had an injury or whatever, and he started to have trouble. And so the answer in that time was maybe just have simpler approaches, maybe less complicated, and just let's do our job. And for him, who's an artist at heart, that's not the way to go. This was more complicated. This was more interesting. And the pride of which you spoke about, yes, it was on display. And I am all about Brezina finding his voice again so that he can do performances that will really set his soul aflame, regardless of what the place is.
Bronze medalist, another skater that I think no one expected to stay in. He's 31 years of age now. He's suffered disappointment after disappointment when it comes to Olympic seasons. Starts out the seasons really strong and then ends up not making the Olympic team. Sergey Voronov from Russia. He's very consistent with his quad toe, and I think that helps a lot. He's actually a very consistent skater overall. One thing that I do want to point out is that it was mentioned in the short program that he changed his music at the last minute. His first program was To a Piece by Secret Garden, which is like an ambient, slower, new age music. And now he has this brand new, kind of more upbeat Rachmaninoff program, and not 1 ounce of the choreography was changed in the program. So what do you think that says?
Panic at the Disco. I think it's. I was absolutely thinking immediately as a coach when I was like, wait a minute. Please don't anybody do a split screen of those two programs. That was the first thing I thought. And I do think that from a comfort zone, they didn't have time to reconstruct, maybe. So that kind of a choice, I can guarantee you he's not going to be like, yay, I'm proud of it. It fit this way. However, in a related sort of situation, I do see a lot of that right up to the world level on the level step sequences where the same piece of footwork is used for the short and the long. From a choreographic standpoint, I want my skin crawls on that. Lots of times the main coach and the skater will override because I just know that from a choreographic standpoint, it's not just not kosher. It should be affecting the way a judge looks at what you're willing to provide us as far as innovation, creativity. And yes, if that's the easy way that you do those steps, you're going to rely on that. That helps. To me, that's a skill level thing. If you're not capable of doing something that's different for the long, is that what you're saying? So I do think that there are missed opportunities when you pick a common denominator as opposed to really put effort into everything you're putting out. Those two packages, that short and long, should be the best that you can do. And I don't think when Voronov or any skater who does the same piece of footwork in the short and long make that choice, I don't think that is the best that they can do. And I would say Voronov, it wouldn't surprise me if he felt the same.
His free skate, on the other hand, was choreographed by the late Dennis Chen, who actually planned on still competing this year. As a positive, I think that this is probably the most complete program that Sergey has ever attempted. And I have to give him credit as well. He's 31 years old, and he's out there trying a quad loop, which is something new for him. It was downgraded, so he really didn't receive any points on it. But it wasn't a bad attempt. He stood up on it. It was just a little bit short. So he's still pushing himself as well, much like Brezina.
Yeah. I've always been left watching Voronov like there's far more than what he's putting out there. I do think that in the past, when choreographers and coaches have sold him short and give him sort of like boilerplate, that was the wrong thing to do. I want to know what his personal voice is more like. I would like to see him go Brezina's route where he's getting back to himself. And I still think there's more that he can be put out there that would impress people. The loop, I've seen it. The loop's good. So, yeah, it's important for old dogs to be doing new tricks. And it's weird to be saying that about age 30 because it's not really old. And this is a new era. I think you're going to see a lot of people skating into their 30s from here on out. They know more about how to avoid injuries and how to take care of themselves. They should be. It's just about more mental strength than anything else.
Fourth place finisher, Matteo Rizzo from Italy. He just barely missed out on a medal. I don't think anyone would have predicted him to be on the podium. I mean, even though this event was really unpredictable, he was one I don't think people considered to be a medal contender, but he showed very straightforward, confident skating. His short program for me was actually the highlight of the entire men's event, and I think I would have probably had him in the top 3 in the short program. He reminds me, very oddly, of someone like Matt Savoy, who's very, very confident with their skating. Pretty strong skating skills, but there's nothing over the top. He kind of just goes out and delivers what he knows he can do, and everything has this quality to it.
Yeah, the likability for him is off the charts, right? So he looks like somebody that I want my daughter to take to the prom. You know what I mean? And I feel safe. You know what I mean? And good skater, likable person. And it'll be fascinating to see whether this could be a breakthrough year for him. I hear that he's like the hardest working person in skating.
Talking now a little bit about some of the rule changes this year that directly affect the men. One of the biggest changes is that 30 seconds was removed from the free skate while they're only removing one element, a jump element. Do you think that it makes the program more of a sprint than before? Skaters have kind of told me that they feel more rushed because in the past, they have this time where they can maybe use a slow piece of music to regroup, and now there's really not that opportunity. So while the idea would be to simplify the program, do you think it kind of has the reverse effect?
Yes, I do. I remember when back in my day, they shortened the program from 5 minutes to 4.5. And it felt immediately like there was no chance to cast a spell, like you were just going from element to element. You had to be heading to your next triple or quad or whatever. And so even more so now, but brevity is the soul of wit. And if they even shortened it more and maybe took out a jumping pass, then you would have skaters who were forced to make choices about how to maximize what they do well. I think on that level, it's good. Those people who can cast a spell and do elements at the same time are going to benefit. And guess what? That's kind of what skating is all about.
We saw, probably more than I've ever seen before, so many popped quads into doubles in the free skate in the men's event. Is there too much pressure now to land a successful quad, or is it just the early season?
The answer is yes. The value that is put on a quad landed, having it be so critical because you know somebody else is going to try 4 or whatever in your group. It does seem to be going in a way where that's all that skaters care about. Having said that, I've tried quads and was lucky enough to land a couple. Anybody who doesn't think that they should be the value where they are as far as the difference is concerned is crazy. They've never hurled themselves into the air and gone around 4 times. It is a huge risk. It should be valued. I think it should be the distance between it and another jump should be enlarged. I think that I would like to see a bigger penalty for missing. I would like to see less pluses on a popped jump. And I did think that there was a number of people that I saw were at 0 or +0 or -1, and other people on that same panel were at -5. So I'm not sure that their guidelines for what exactly makes the gradation couldn't be revisited. I saw a quad triple combination that both jumps, to me as a skater, looked lucky, and we're looking at +3s and +4s. And I'm like, that should be closer to a 0, shouldn't it? And so I'm a little confused as to what each individual judge is using for their guidelines to expand into the +5 region.
Speaking of grades of execution, special mention here for Julian Yi of Malaysia, who was 3rd in the short program. A really fantastic skate. And I have to say, I think that if he can just ever so slightly less telegraph those jumps, those are +4, +5 jumps. That triple axel was perfect. It had that Japanese soft, deep landing. The quadruple salchow, same thing, just perfect in every way. So for me, those would be potential +5 jumps, speaking about the grades.
I absolutely agree with you that he's got something that is the deep knee approach to takeoffs and landings is exceptional. I think the quad style and the short program, I was blown away at how big and how beautiful it was. I'm a little concerned about the fact that he's outside the circle on the takeoff. He does a little swing bata going into the triple axel. I'm concerned about a future hip replacement. And, I always say to my students, if we take a picture of you on the takeoff of your axle or double axle or triple axle, and we can't tell from the picture whether it's an axle or a flying camel, that's bad.
That's true.